Good day, Deep Inward family. Welcome to day 178 of our Bible study review. Today we are closing out the book of Daniel with chapters 10 through 12. Let's open up with chapter 10. In verse 1, it says, "In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar." Now, I want to pause there for a moment because remember, Daniel was a young Hebrew boy, about 17 years of age, when he was taken from Jerusalem and brought to Babylon. So he has seen Nebuchadnezzar on the throne, right? Babylon, the gold head. He has also seen his grandson, Belshazzar, take the throne. He saw his grandson slain, and then he saw the Persians and the Medes take over Babylon. So he's seen Darius, and now he is seeing King Cyrus, as this was prophesied before, that Daniel would stand until all of these kings. And just keep Daniel chapter 9 in mind as you're reading through 10, 11, and 12. Daniel was praying on behalf of his people, praying on behalf of the sins of himself and his people, because he knew the time was drawing near to return back to Jerusalem, right? So he's praying for these things and he's seeking the face of Yahuwah all throughout this time. That is why he was given a prophecy about the 70 weeks, pointing to the coming of Messiah and pointing to the time when all of Israel would be restored. Now, in yesterday's video, Daniel chapter 7 through 9, I did leave resources in the description box below. Now, there are different viewpoints on the Daniel 70 weeks and what it means. I stand somewhere in between both of those viewpoints, but I wanted to share them. Please make sure you check them out. I just wanted to put that out there because Daniel chapter 10 has everything to do with Daniel chapter 9. It's like a continuation of his prayer, how he's seeking the face of Yahuwah. Let's keep reading. And it says, "And the message was true and one of great conflict. And he understood the message and had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 full weeks." Now that's 21 days. And he says, "I ate no tasty food, no meat or wine entered my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all until 3 full weeks were fulfilled." So Daniel is fasting and praying, right? This is something that the body of Messiah needs to practice more. If we want to have answers from the heavenly throne, we need to learn how to afflict our flesh so that we are in tune with the Spirit. All right, let's keep reading in verse 4. It says, "On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, I lifted up my eyes and looked and saw a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold and Uphaz. His body was like beryl, and his face was like the appearance of lightning, and his eyes were like lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet were like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words were like the sound of a tumult. I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, while the men who were with me did not see the vision. But a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves." So Daniel heard this and saw this, but the other men next to him did not. How they heard what Daniel heard was through a quaking, more like thunder and lightning, but Daniel saw and heard the real deal. And this goes to show, if you are someone who is fasting and praying and seeking the face of Yahuwah, there could be literally flesh next to you and you see something and they don't see it. Why? Because you yourself are the one who is seeking his face. All right. So let's keep reading in verse 8. It says, "Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, and my countenance grew deathly pale, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the sound of his words, and while I heard the sound of his words, then I was in a deep sleep on my face, with my face towards the ground." Verse 10, "But then a hand touched me, which set me on my knees and on the palms of my hand. He said to me, 'O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak to you and stand upright, for I have been sent to you.' And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood trembling." Now this man, or this being that is speaking to Daniel, it is Gabriel, the angel Gabriel. He's responsible for these communications back and forth from the heavenly throne. And this is what he is about to tell Daniel in verse 12. "Then he said to me, 'Do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand this and to humble yourself before your Elohim, your words were heard, and I have come because of your words.'" So he was fasting for 21 days, right? And Gabriel says, since the first day that you started praying, right? Yahuwah heard you. And he says, no fear, right? You are a man that is greatly beloved. You are treasured in the heavens above. And in verse 13, Gabriel tells Daniel why his answer was delayed. It says, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me for 21 days. So Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia." All right. So this is not talking about the natural king of Persia, which we know it's Cyrus, right? What is Daniel praying and asking for? To return back to Jerusalem. Who gave the decree to allow the people to go back to Jerusalem? It is Cyrus. So who is the principality over the king of Cyrus, right? Who is trying to stop this from happening? None other than Satan himself. So who shows up to help Gabriel come and give Daniel his answer? Michael. Michael is the great archangel of war, and Michael is mentioned in other parts of the Bible. And I just want to share with you so you have a revelation about the fact that this was Satan and his armies trying to hold up Gabriel from giving Daniel the answer and trying to hold up King Cyrus's heart, right? He's trying to move his heart to keep the people captive in Babylon. Let's go to Jude. There's only one chapter in Jude. Let's go to verse 9. It says, "Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil in a dispute about the body of Moses, did not care to pronounce upon him a railing judgment, but he said, 'The Adon rebuke you.'" And now let's go to Revelation 12:7 to read about these wars that break out in the heavenly realm, right? The wars which we cannot see, the wars which we are warned of, that we do not battle flesh and blood, but spiritual wicked principalities in the heavenlies. This right here is evidence of that, all right? So let's read 12. Verse 7, it says, "Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon." The dragon is Satan, all right? And it says, "And the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was there a place for them in heaven any longer." So just as we saw in the book of Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel is prophesying of the king over Tyre, right? That king or that prince, right? That is Satan. He's called the prince of the airways, right? In the second heaven. And he is there, right? He tries to block the prayers, right? Our answers from getting back to us. That is evident right here in the book of Daniel. He's praying and fasting for 21 days. And Gabriel says, "Look, the Father heard you on day 1. And I have been trying to come to you since day 1. But guess who has been holding me up? The prince of the airways." All right, let's get back to Daniel chapter 10 and verse 14. It says, "Now I have come to make you understand what shall befall your people in the latter days. For the vision is yet for many days. When he had spoken such words to me, I set my face toward the ground and became mute. Then one in the likeness of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spoke and said to him who stood before me, 'Oh, my Lord, because of the visions, sorrows have come upon me, and I retain no strength. How can the servant of my Lord talk with you, my Lord? As for me, there remains no strength in me now, nor is there any breath left in me.' Then again, the one having the appearance of a man came and touched me and strengthened me. He said, 'O man, greatly beloved, do not fear. Peace be unto you. Be strong and courageous.' When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, 'Let my Adon, let my Lord speak, for you have strengthened me.' Then he said, 'Do you understand why I have come to you now? But now I shall return to fight against the prince of Persia,'" right? He's not talking about the man. He's talking about Satan himself, all right? And he says, "And when I have gone forth, then truly the prince of Greece will come. But I will show you what is inscribed in the scripture of truth. Yet there is no one who stands firmly with me against these forces except Michael, your prince." So Michael is the archangel who is looking over the people of Judah. He is watching over the covenant people, right? That's Archangel Michael. And Gabriel says there's no one else who is standing with me to help me fight his armies, right? Satan and his minions. He certainly has principalities, those fallen angels who followed him out of heaven, right? They are taking up territories all across the four corners of the earth. And when people agree with sin, they strengthen them, right? They have fortresses and they strengthen their hands when they agree with sin and act on those sinful things. That is why when we come to Messiah, we are called to crucify our flesh. And it is no longer us who lives, but it is Messiah in us. And we are to abide in his righteousness and obey the commands of the Father. So at the very end of chapter 10, that is what Gabriel is telling Daniel. He says, look, the Prince of Greece is about to come, but he is not coming as of yet. Think about where Daniel is right now, right? It says King Cyrus. This is still the Medes and the Persians, right? And Gabriel saying, soon, the one who you saw in the previous vision, the goat with the horn, right? That represented, the symbolic language represented Alexander the Great. Now he is telling him there are some other things that have to happen after the Prince of Greece, after Alexander, that concerns the end days. Now that we have that foundation laid, let's walk into chapter 11. It says, also, in the first year of Darius the Mede, right? So he's kind of going back in time a little bit. So he's telling you of the time when he had these visions and when he was receiving these answers. He says, even I, stood to confirm, to strengthen him. And now I will tell you the truth. Truly, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than all of them. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up against the realm of Greece. A mighty king shall stand up who shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. That is Alexander the Great. Okay, so he says right here in verse 4, when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided into 4 winds of heaven. Now, if you remember yesterday, the goat, right after the one horn was broken off, which represented Alexander the Great, then there were 4 other horns that came up. Those 4 horns are the 4 generals that rise up after Alexander the Great. All of chapter 11 is going through what happens when those 4 generals take over much territory. And then we know, right, Antiochus Epiphanes is one of them. And at the very end of chapter 11, it talks about how he comes against the holy people. We touched on this yesterday, but I'm also going to leave resources down below. Now, I'm not going to read through all of chapter 11 because you won't understand unless you see that this is about the 4 generals. So please make sure you check out the videos down in the description box below. So as you walk through chapter 11, you will get a visual and you will understand exactly who it's talking about. That's why I recommend that you take your time with these books of prophecy because it is a lot of information to take in. And if you did not excel in history class, right? If you did not excel in those things, then you would be completely clueless about chapter 11 altogether. There is a video that will walk you through it. Please check it out. Please. Otherwise, you won't have a clue as to what it's saying. All right, now let's walk into chapter 12. It says, at that time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people. Again, confirming this is the archangel of war, and he guards the people of Yah. And it says, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who shall be found written in the book. All right. And it says, many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and others to shame and everlasting contempt. Right. And how do you find your name in the book of life? Come on, y'all. Come on. Your trust and your faith in the high priest who went into the heavenly tabernacle, sprinkled his blood upon the true mercy seat in heaven. Right. And then he shows your name to the Father. That's how your name is in the book of life, right? Even those of the Mosaic covenant, right? If they believed in the sacrifices, right? And they were obedient to the commands of the Father, they will be raised. They will have an opportunity to rule and reign with the Messiah during the millennial reign. Let's keep reading in verse 3. Those who are wise shall shine as the brightness of the expanse of heaven, and those who turn the many to righteousness as stars forever and ever, right? So if you're doing everything in your power to share the gospel, make disciples, if you turn people away from their wicked ways and you turn them towards righteousness, if you were a conduit of that, it says you will shine brightly. You will have a great position in the kingdom. All right. Right here, verse 4, it says, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro and knowledge shall increase. Verse 5, Then I, Daniel, looked, and there before me stood two others, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the one on the other side of the bank of the river. One said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the water of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, who was over the water of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him who lives forever, that it would be for a times, and a time and a half. All right. And when they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Now, if you go back and watch the recommended videos about Daniel's 70 weeks, then this will make much more sense. At the very end, we will see a third temple being rebuilt. All right. That third temple is rebuilt by those who do not believe on the Messiah. The 70-week prophecy has everything to do with belief in receiving the Messiah. All right. So those over there in the land who have not, reconciled themselves unto their high priest, unto their Messiah, right? They're going to deal with a lot of trouble the last 3.5 years of history on this side. Let's continue. Verse 8. As for me, I heard, but I could not understand. So I said, My Lord, what shall be the result of these things? And he said, Go your way, Daniel, for these words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Right? So Daniel wanted to know what these things meant in his time. And the angel said, it's not for you to understand right now. That's something we need to understand about Bible prophecy. If there are some things we don't understand as of yet, sometimes that's meant for the Messiah to teach us, right? Some things are specially held just for him, right? We may understand these things as they're unfolding before our eyes, right? And that is why it's so important to place your trust in the one above and not in man. All right. That's why you need to read the word, study the scriptures, right? So you can show yourself approved and be prepared for what is coming. All right. But let's continue. It says, from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away and the abomination that makes desolation set up, there shall be 1,290 days. That's 3.5 years, y'all. That's the last 3.5 years of history. Okay. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. But as for you, go your way until the end. Then you shall rest and rise again for your lot at the end of the age. He's telling Daniel, you're going to rise from the dead. You're going to raise up and you're going to rule and reign with the Messiah, the one that you saw coming in, riding on the clouds. And if you remain faithful and true, this is your lot as well. Lot means inheritance. We will inherit the kingdom. We will inherit the king. I can't wait to see his face, right? And he will give us a plot of land. He will tell us what our jobs will be during the millennial reign, right? And he is going to weigh all of our works to see what our reward is, right? Our reward is a job. Hopefully you know that. It's a job. It's the priesthood, right? And there will be a ranking system. That's why there will be greater and least within the kingdom. And this is based off of how you prepare yourself on this side. So I'm going to ask you, what are you doing to prepare yourself and others for the kingdom? It has a great deal to do with how you will be positioned. Deep in Word family, I hope that you have enjoyed the book of Daniel. It's one of my absolute favorites. We are completely finished with this book. I will see you tomorrow for the opening of the book of Hosea. Until then, Yah bless.